All right, another podcast from the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan. It's going to be an awesome podcast today. Right before we get into it, I want to shout out VetLife. VetLife is a 501c3 nonprofit company. It's a company of veterans for veterans. Every veteran faces difficulties when they transition from active duty back to civilian life, and VetLife is there to ease that transition. If you want to reach out to VetLife, you may do so through Instagram or Facebook, or check out their website at vetlifetoday.org. So without further ado, I want to introduce Jen Erin, a woman that has made a very strong impression on me on a short period of time. She's created some art that will forever be in my home. And without stealing any more of her thunder, I just want her to tell her story. So Jen, for the people that don't know you, let's start with how did you and I meet? And then let's go all the way back to like your childhood. You know, what were you like growing up? When did you first find art? And then we'll start to create your story to this day.
Okay. So hello. We met on Facebook. Somebody had tagged me in a post. You were looking for someone to create a masterpiece, right?
A masterpiece.
A masterpiece. And I confidently sent you a message saying that I was the girl to do that, right? And you and I chatted about what you were looking for, and I was very confident that I was the person that could do that for you. So...
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there was 17 people that got tagged or that I was suggested to on this post. Mm-hmm. And I remember being like, man, how do I select from these people? Because they all probably have different skills. Mm-hmm. But you went out of your way to explain to me that, like, listen, when this piece is done, you will love it. I will make sure that you will love the piece. And to me, way more than skill set or things like that, that type of conviction or commitment to, like, this will end up spectacular was like, done deal. This is the woman to work with. I don't even need to see her portfolio. If she is that confident, she's either delusionally confident, and you know what? I like those type of people anyway, or she's going to make sure this thing is a masterpiece. So I guess we might as well talk about what it is. So I basically came to you with the idea that, like, since I was a little kid, I've been a huge video game nerd. I wanted to bring to life in my home, on my game room wall, a mural of like all my favorite video game characters, but I like didn't even really know the scene. I didn't know much about it other than I have about 8 or 9 characters and I want them in a piece together and I want it to like give me that nostalgic feeling.
Right.
That's a serious undertaking. So when I first came to you with this, first of all, what gave you the confidence that you'd be able to do it, you know, to the ability that you spoke of? And, you know, was it difficult tackling this? Like, you didn't even know the characters. You didn't know what the art was going to be like. You know, how did you feel going into this?
Well, to answer your question, what gave me the confidence? I think I have reached out to people and gotten rejected many times. So I think that I've done that enough times where it's like, hey, if you don't think that I'm that person, even though I knew I was, but if you don't think that I am, then that's just one more situation that I can learn from and grow from and maybe approach it differently next time, but that wasn't the case. So
So you weren't afraid to fail because you failed before and you're still going.
100%. Yeah.
So you basically was like, I'm going to let this person know passionately that like I can create an incredible piece for you if I'm the right person.
Right.
You know, and that's what made me select you. So I want to go, before we talk more about the piece, I want to go all the way back. Like, what were you like as a young kid? When did you first find art? When did you know that you had a calling or some type of love for art at a young age? Or did you find it later in life?
I think that when I was younger, I always knew that I was different, and I didn't know what that meant. And I was always very quiet, always very, like, did everything on my own and never really fit in with groups of people. And I always cared a lot more than what I felt from people. So I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, and I would just start asking my mom, like, what can I draw? Like, what can I draw? You know, because I wasn't very social. So, and she would give me suggestions, and then I would like sit down and like learn how to do a leaf or learn how to do like different details, and for no reason other than just learning how to do it. And I was very stubborn probably about it too. So I would just practice, and it just came very naturally to love doing that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as a child, I was like huge into math and science
You
and
were?
numbers
Yeah.
and analytical and logic but you must have been very different like were you able did you have a strong imagination? Could you see things in your mind and try to bring them to life on paper
Yeah.
or were you just
Yeah, I think like, someone like kind of like you were like just kind of like spitballing things and like saying this is what I want, and I could already see what that would mean, like what that would entail, you know what I mean? And I could like visualize what I thought you wanted. Obviously what we did for you, it's a lot different, but because we worked together on what you wanted, it changed a little bit. But yeah, I could always like just see what the end result was going to be in my head. So that's probably where the confidence comes from too, huh?
100%. So now when you were a young kid and you started to, get older, a lot of the time society and the world teaches you that like you can't be successful in art or like pursuing that dream is the one in a million. You're not going to make it. You need to be reasonable. You need to be logical. You need to select a career choice that's better for you. Did you believe that or like as a young kid, did you start to think that like when I get older, I'm going to be an artist? Like was that belief still there or did it get suppressed by society for a time? And then when did you start to refine it, if so?
Right. I think I mean, I went back and forth just because I was very influenced by people's, sometimes unwanted suggestions on how I should live my life. And so it was a back and forth thing for a while, but I always knew deep down that it was what I was meant to be doing. But it truly was a journey, to get to this point. And it took a lot of failure and it took a lot of like questions. And I never felt right about what I was doing. Like the jobs I had, the corporate jobs, the waitress jobs, like I never felt like at home. And it took a lot of, quitting jobs to realize that there's a reason why I never felt at home. So I don't know if that answers your question.
So when did you, as an adult, when did you start like doing art and getting paid for it or starting to like take your talents and then see reward from it versus because I'm sure you've probably painted consistently throughout your life. You probably just painted just for enjoyment or for
Right.
the mental state that it would put you in or the escape
Right.
from reality, right? Like that's
Sure.
why a lot of
Yeah.
times why I'd play video games as a kid because like
100%, yeah.
you can detach from the world
Right.
and just be like in your zone, right?
Uh-huh.
So when did you start to actually realize that like maybe I can turn this into something? And, let's talk about some of the failures and struggles because most dreamers have to endure so many no's and so many you're not going to make it and you're going to fail, before they actually make it. And then other people look at them and go like, oh, you're so lucky. It's like, no, it's resiliency. It's
Right.
perseverance. So let's just talk about those things.
Well, I think one thing that you and I have touched on a little bit is when, when I was in 8th grade, I unknowingly was entered into a scholarship program. My teacher saw a painting I was doing, and so she entered me into this like competition, and I was one of 3 people who was picked to get the scholarship, which meant all my art classes would be paid for in college. So I ended up going to Grand Rapids Community College for about a half a semester when I realized that my professors didn't actually they didn't believe that what I was doing, the type of art I was doing, was the right way to do it. So I ended up getting C's and D's in all of my classes and doing horribly. And a moment that I realized I was going to be doing this the rest of my life was around that time because they were failing me for the projects I was doing because I was too detailed, but then they were pulling me aside and asking if I would do portraits for them and, do commission projects for them. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? You're failing me because I'm too detailed, but then hiring me because I'm too detailed. So it was a very strange and confusing concept to wrap your head around,
Yeah, I'm trying to understand that contradiction, being told that what you're doing is wrong, but we love what you're doing.
Right. It was very confusing because I had gotten a scholarship to take these classes and then ended up failing. So
Because of your style is why
Yeah.
you got the scholarship.
Right.
You earned the scholarship because of
100%.
how you were painting,
Right.
to then be told, we don't like the way you're painting, you should paint like us, which to me, sitting across the table from you, I am not artistic at all. But what I can say is I thought art was free form. I thought art
Right.
was creation. I thought
Yeah.
art was like however you can bring something to life.
Yeah.
Someone may love that. Some people might not like the extreme detail. Some people might love abstract. Some people may love that. But
Right.
like art is supposed to be in the like almost beauty in the eye of the beholder type deal, where
Right,
when
right.
I look at that detailed piece, I'm like, that is incredible. The amount of care and concern for how that finished product looks to me is so much better than like, oh, that's the rough idea of the character, right?
Exactly. Right.
So I actually had an experience that we talked about before where in high school, I think I was in high school. I think I was in ninth grade. I was in a typing class, and for any listeners, I don't type correctly. I only use my two fingers, and I use my pinky for backspace and my thumbs for spacebar. But I only type like this. Now, the teacher always said, no, you have to use your ring finger, have to use this pinky. And she gave me like D's in the class because I type incorrectly. And at the very end of the class, they put 3 or 5 paragraphs up on this projector, and the teacher and all the students race to type it, and then they check your errors. I typed the fastest in the class, faster than the instructor, with less errors than everyone else, and yet I almost failed the class. So that goes back to the idea of like, just because you have a method of
Right.
doing something
Right.
does not mean someone else's is wrong, unless consistently they produce much worse results.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, let's say at my style, I could only type 20 words a minute, no matter
Right.
how much I practice,
Right.
then maybe there's a better way. But at the end of the day, like, people that are stuck, it's probably the same people that end up working a 9 to 5 their whole life because
Right.
they're stuck in a
Yeah.
box
Right.
that they can't escape. Like, they don't see that beyond the box. Maybe there's an audience out there that would absolutely love my detail.
Do you remember, I think it was the first day I was at your house, and I took a step back and I was like, do you care how I get there? Do you remember that?
I do.
And that kind of reminds me of what you just touched on, because it's like, do you care how I get there? Do you care if I'm doing it the right way or the wrong way, or do you just care that I get there?
That is, you just touched on such a profound topic that I think people need to always consider in their brain, that like the final result is so much more important than the process. Okay. Some processes may be more efficient. Some process may be more by the book. They might be following protocol more, but at the end of the day, the result is all that should matter.
Right.
You know what I mean? So many times I feel like we're boxed by society and told like, no, this is a yes or no. That's a black or white. You can only do things this way. And that is a limiting thing. That is
Yeah.
going to produce such less result. Like, imagine if every artist in the world was told not to be detailed. We would live in a world where artists wouldn't create incredibly intricate, detailed design.
Right.
Why would that make sense?
Right. It doesn't.
It does not make
No.
sense. So now you obviously, as an artist, because you're an artist to the core. I can tell just from the time we spent together while you're painting and I was there working.
Yeah.
You're an artist to the core. So what was the struggle like of knowing that you're an artist, but you're stuck in this society that tells you like, get a real job.
Right.
You shouldn't be painting. You should be doing that.
Right.
How are you going to take care of your family like
Right.
this?
You have food to provide to your son. I will.
You're being irresponsible, right?
Right.
So, like, let's talk about some of those struggles, because I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of young dreamers that probably could go so far in life are
Absolutely.
crushed early on
Yeah.
by those statements.
I think that learning how to take people's opinions and suggestions and kind of say, okay, I appreciate that, but my heart is telling me something different. And I don't know if I wish this, but if I would have listened to my heart a lot earlier, well, number one, I wouldn't be here, but I think I would have learned a lot quicker that, follow your heart, follow your dreams, because people are going to say whatever they want to say because it's what they believe, and it's not necessarily what you believe. And if in your heart, you know that your path is the right path for you. So it's hard to kind of take it was hard, not anymore. It was hard to take people's opinions and suggestions and not hear them in your head, especially when you fail, especially when you get rejected. Those very vulnerable moments, you're like, well, maybe they're right, but they're not,
How did you always shut those voices down? Because you just hit the nail on the head that
Yeah.
most people get to the point where they go, see, I am failing like they said I would.
Yeah.
I'm a failure. How
Uh-huh.
did you shut those voices up?
It was hard, but I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I am going to do this. Like, you just kind of, you know, you get sick of hearing those voices. You get sick of like feeling down, you know, about your situation, and you're like, I'm just going to do it, you know, just going to do it. And I would practice harder, and I would do more work, and I would reach out to people even more. I would, you know, go to car dealerships, and they would say no, but at least I tried, and at least I did it. But it was hard for a while, but then you just stop listening to them. For me,
one of the things in a very famous speech, Steve Jobs did this at a Stanford graduation. He basically said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. And I think that's like something that people need to remember and have faith in, is like, you're not going to see the dots that align in your future that get you to the dream.
Right.
And like a lot of the times, the fact that you don't see them makes most people stop pursuing it, because they just don't see how this conversation or being tagged in a Facebook post can lead to this, because we haven't even talked about what it's led to for you yet, and we will.
Right.
But it's like, because they don't see the path clearly, they lose faith in the path. It's like, you almost have to know that like you can't connect the dots looking forward, but one day your journey will go, oh my God, this conversation or this work of art or this
led something so significant.
100%. And the other thing I wanted to touch on before we leave the topic in the past is like, when you have these instructors or these people in your life that are telling you, no, this is wrong, this is right. These people aren't masters of the universe. They're not the controllers of the collective consciousness that have decided that, hey, in art, you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And in typing, you may not type that way, James.
Exactly.
So there is a certain healthy ability to question authority figures and say, no, who's to say that one day I'm not in your shoes, overseeing the next generation of kids coming up in art and telling them, you know what, be detailed, because I was told not to be detailed and it almost killed my dream.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need to remember that like, these are just human beings that have different visions than you, that have different opinions than you, that are trying to push their opinion on you. You know what I mean? And sometimes through care. Like, those are the most dangerous voices. Are people that care for you, that are telling you you should get a real job. In their mind, they're like, because art's not going to work out and I don't want to see them struggle.
Right.
When really it's like, you're crippling someone that has a passion. And most people can go through this life passionless, sparkless. You know, I work my job to get my paycheck to buy shit I don't need. You know, if you find passion in people, listen, if you're listening to this podcast, if you find passion in people, you need to do everything in your power to support that passion. You need to not concern yourself whether they're going to be successful or not, or whether their dreams are going to come true or not. We need more passion in the world. So when you see a young spirit that is like, I'm going to become the next Bill Gates or whatever, or I'm going to become the next Van Gogh, or just help that spirit.
Right.
Throw more wood on that fire. Like, help that. We need more of those people. You know, so now I want to shift to leading up to the opportunities that you're getting now. But so you're working a career, you have a son, you know, you're in a relationship, you have all these responsibilities. When your son is born and you're trying to be the best partner you can and all these things, is art still a big part of your life at that point? Did you end up detached from it a little bit? Were you still on the grind? Talk about your life as like all the adult responsibilities, because that's the next stage where people get stopped, is all the adult responsibilities get thrown on you, and then you go like, well, I could have, and then you go a different direction.
Sure. I think what I have learned, especially having an amazing 10-year-old son, is throughout the years, like, I've been given this opportunity to show him what life can be like if you choose to follow a certain path. And, you know, who knows if that could impact him later in life. So I guess it's been a struggle for sure, just hearing all the different, you know, people suggesting to me that, hey, maybe you should get a real job. You have bills to pay. But for me, I look at it as an opportunity to show my son a beautiful side of the world, you know, and to have him come to, you know, like, he came to your house. He thought that was amazing. He sees like his mom as like this artist, and, you know, he gets to come work with me and see what she's doing. And, you know, he always says like, Mom, whenever I think about what you do for a living, I think about how I want to tell people that my mom makes people cry, because when people, you know, see a dog portrait of you know, an animal that they've loved that's passed away, they cry. And to me, my son is able to see how impactful not following the norm can be. And so, yeah, it has been a struggle, but it's also been really beautiful, because he, you know, what a cool opportunity for him to be able to see that. And to have people say that I shouldn't be doing this, that I should be working a full-time job and, you know, making money and not living in an apartment, but I'm happy, we're happy. So, and yeah, I think relationships have been a struggle only because I do put artwork first and I do put my passion and my son first. And, you know, sometimes people can't understand that because they get out of work at 5:00. Well, I'm leaving to go to a job because that's what time works for the other person, you know? So sometimes it's a struggle, but ultimately someone will understand, you know, but.
And I think you have to look at life and you have to say, what are my goals? Are my goals to have money? Or is my goal to live in a way that resonates with my spirit, that allows me to embrace the beauty of this life and live passionately and inspire and motivate and influence and like bring tears to someone? You know what I mean? And like, what is my purpose? And I think when you detach from the idea of chasing money and you chase purpose, money is a product of purpose.
100%. Yeah.
Money is a product of passion. Like I didn't know shit about business. I didn't know anything about all these things. And now we're sitting in this facility podcasting because I chased the purpose. And I did the same thing in my relationships. And like, I'll be honest, things of the past, like in my life, it was purpose, passion, number one. Number two might have been girlfriend. Then the list went down from there. And no matter what, when number two became too much of a problem to number one, my passion and purpose would literally like probably make me not as good of a relationship partner because I'd be like, I'm not going to, you know, step away from that. I'm not going to put that on the back burner. I'm not going to, I don't want you at the gym now. I can't, that's my passion. That's what invigorates me to live. You know what I mean? So a lot of people need to realize that when you're going to pursue these dreams, there's a certain selfishness that you're going to need to embrace, but I don't look at it as selfish. Society is going to call it selfish. So like I want to make that clear distinction that people are going to try to tell you you're being selfish or that you should be doing this. You should just get a job. You should be able to, but you're not. You are following passion. And when you follow passion and then you create some beautiful future, you'll go, thank God I didn't listen to that advice of play it safe. Forget that. Do it on the side. You know? So let's talk a little bit about the process that we went through together. So Jordan Smith tagged me or tagged you in my post. And by the way, for the listeners that don't know, and this is a big shout out to you, Jordan Smith. Without you, this podcast would not exist because the art would not exist. Oh, we have a phone ringing. No, it's all right. Go ahead. It's no problem. Is it silent? There you go. I love your phone case, by the way.
Thank you.
So let's redo that, Jordan. Jordan Smith, without you, this podcast would not exist because the art would not exist. The entire relationship here wouldn't exist. And when you see this final product, you're going to be speechless. So Jen had told me that I affected your life. You know, I remember I met you at a show. I put my arm around you. We took a picture together, you know, and you said that I was influential to you through my words and through my habits. But you're now influential to me. You helped bring this to life. So you and I met through a Facebook post. And like I said, the reason I chose you was completely based on, I hadn't even seen your portfolio. Like you and I laughed.
That is crazy. I didn't know that until I was like in the process of painting on your wall.
So we were laughing about that. Like I didn't even look at your work, but I could tell through your confidence that you were skilled. And more important, I could tell that you weren't trying to create your piece of art. You were trying to create my piece of art.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that to me trumped everything. I was like, I don't care about if this person is a little bit cleaner at lines or this and that. I don't care about that. I care about, can someone bring a vision that I have that I've wanted since being young to life? You know what I mean? And like I said, when you see this, when you're a viewer and you see this, we're talking an absolutely massive, the size of this wall mural. We're not talking about like, can you bring a little painting to life for me? I might not have been so selective, right? So we get together. I give you the most bullshit sketch ever of like, here's the general.
And then I give you one right back.
And you go like, here's another bullshit sketch if that's what we're doing here. If we're exchanging bullshit sketches.
Like, here's like a little drawing of a, dinosaur.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to run with this. So you said, send me a list of characters. And then by the way, for the people that are listening too, I want you to realize that like she could have easily just taken an image of these characters and then been like, okay, I'll just paint them. But you went out of your way to try to learn the characters. You went out of your way to try to learn, like, well, what's their thing? What's the nostalgia about them? What like what environment would they be in? What type of character are they? That is so far beyond being a painter. That is being an artist, because you're trying to be like, how do I bring that character to life? Because really what it is we're creating feelings, right? Like,
absolutely,
we're creating
memories
feelings
that you've had, and
so through the nostalgic feeling, there are certain, like with Godzilla, it's his atomic breath. With Samus, it's his sword. With Blastoise, it's those water cannons and the environment, etc. So, you know, as we started to go into this thing and we started to create this art, just talk about like what you thought it was going to be up front and then the process of like learning about these characters, and then like you just talk about the art process in general, because I'll probably show the art, you know, while you're talking about this part is when I'll be showing the art on this video.
Really? Okay. Oh man. Oof. Gives me the chills.
Just tell me about start to finish on the piece, like what you expected it to be versus what it transformed to. How about the process of you learning about the characters, etc.
I think so. When I first envisioned this, you and I had talked about what you wanted, and so I, you know, Googled some images and thought, okay, yeah, this is doable. I can do this. And then through talking with you, and you know, I remember we sat at your computer and you asked me. You showed me like this 3D image of Charizard, and you were like, "That you can't do that, right?" And I was like, "Heck yeah," you know. And so I thought that was really cool, because it's like we kept pushing the envelope. We kept pushing further and further, and after, you know, I'd get done with a certain character, we would kind of look at each other and we'd be like, "But can we do more?" You know. And we kept adding to it and adding to it. So I think it's really cool, because what I thought it was going to be is nothing like what it turned out to be with your help and with just being flexible and workable. And I think that's how we got to the point that we got to. Layers, James.
And one of the things that shocked me most is how you were able to bring the characters to life in a scene together. Like when the viewers see this scene is an entire like battlefield of all the characters almost in their environments the way they would be. You know, you got Godzilla up in the mountains, you have Samus flying through the air, you have the Blastoise and Squirtle by their water in like a lush environment. You have Charizard and Bowser up in like the harsh terrain and Squall. So it's and then really my centerpiece, the Ixar Necromancer from EverQuest, which it's funny because you posted a little picture online and someone was like, Ixar Necromancer with the 1.0 epic.
Yep.
That's exactly what it is. So it's like, and I told you you'd be capturing people's nostalgia with this piece. You know, so now one of the things that I think you said that was so cool about the process is I did not know your capabilities. So every time you told me like, I think we can do this, it made my brain stretch more on the vision, because initially I was like, I just want, you know, a good job. But when I started realizing like, how amazing can we make this thing? And you're apparently not good at saying no, or you're insanely skilled, because you kept being like, I can do that.
Yeah. Well, that's like the beauty of my history is like, I always want to push the envelope. Like I always want to push a little further. And when I fed off of your energy. So that was really cool. And it made it very special, because you were like, can we? And I was like, yeah. And you're like, you want to come out one more time? And I was like, yes, you know. So I am good at saying no, but I felt very strongly about this picture too. So, and then playing off of your energy was incredible, because you were so excited about it. So
for the people that are looking at this video, I literally dug back into my old computer files to find the right pictures of these characters. I found my original login to EverQuest, a game I haven't played in probably a decade. I found, through my Uncle Steve, found the login, pulled the character up on screen, showed you. I found we didn't use a default character. We found the actual character that I played for years of my life, and you were able to bring that to life on the wall. You know what I mean? And maybe I'll actually show pictures of the character itself and then the painting, because it's miraculous. Now, did you at any point shock yourself with the way it was coming, or did it really just hit your expectations? Because you blew me and Stacy out of the water, and Braden.
Yeah, well, thank you. It far exceeded my expectations. I think just because I had an idea, but then playing off of your energy, we kind of created this masterpiece, really. Like it's just so incredible how we went from this idea, and then it just translated into something completely different. And yeah.
So I want to talk about some of the biggest works of art you've ever done, like some of the ones that you feel like are the most influential of your career thus far, like things that got you credentials, awards, recognition, things like that. And then I want to talk about what took place with this painting, because it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? About, like I said to you initially, when we were first talking, when you first came over my house, I'm like, life just has a way when you bring passionate people together.
Yeah.
Doors will open that you don't even see. And
Yeah.
then next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, my life is changing. You actually experienced one of those moments. But let's first talk about like some of your best paintings before this, your best work of art, the things that really gave you credential. Obviously, it was that one where you get the scholarship opportunity.
Yeah,
Were there other
yeah.
big things that you had done that were really shocking?
I think I mean, I've been doing this for a while now, but there was I was going through a really difficult time maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, how can I like put this into a painting? And I was like, okay, this is just a season, and so I was like, oh my goodness, Michigan is, we have 4 seasons. And so I took that idea and that concept, and I was like, okay, this, no matter what difficult time I'm going through right now, it's just a season in life. And how can I put that into a picture? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to put all the seasons of Michigan into one picture. And where's my favorite place? It's up north, And so I just started painting one day. I started painting a winter scene, and then it transitioned into spring, summer, fall, and it was displayed for Art Prize at the Grand Rapids Brewing Company. And I would sit, this is weird, I would sit at the bar and just listen to people talk about it. And that's weird, but I did. And it was so cool because it was something that I put my heart into in a moment where I was going through a very difficult time. And to hear people talk about it, and I even think I was at a different restaurant one night and with some friends, and heard a couple next to us say, oh, and then that painting at Grand Rapids Brewing Company, how cool is that? And then they just described my painting, and I stood up and I was like, thank you so much. And they're like, no way. So it was really, that was a memorable painting because it was meaningful to me and meaningful to a lot of people who are going through a season. And I made sure that it was beautiful because no matter what season you're going through, if you're going through a hard time, like you can find beauty in what you're going through, or at least look back and find beauty, So.
And honestly, remember, the winter doesn't last forever.
Right.
Just like hard times don't last forever. And
Right.
and in a weird way, I've always thought this about my life. Going through really tough times makes you appreciate and love good times that much more.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go through that harsh winter season, like, don't hate the fact that you're going through it. Don't sit there and add suffering to it. Don't ask why me. Just go through the season, learn what you can from it, try to keep yourself warm in the barren, frozen wasteland. And then, the season will end. And when it ends, you're a stronger person. You're a bigger person. You're someone that's learned from that experience. And then the person that comes out the other side is so much more capable of handling winter. Like once you've gone through...
That is exactly it too, yeah.
Once you've gone through a brutal, rough period in life, it's hard to get knocked down again.
Yeah.
Like there's just not much that knocks me down at all because
Right.
I've been knocked down.
Right.
So I feel like this is a really good analogy for people to remember that, like, it's like the seasons.
Yeah.
You might, in the dead of Michigan winter, it does feel like it's going to last forever. You're like, this is never going to go away. You know what
it does.
Just like, the lockdowns that we went through and all the things that we went through, there's seasons. Like, we need to just remember who we are. We need to find strength within ourselves, and we need to find a way to get back to that passion and learn lessons from the tough times. Like, that's
Right.
good stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what happened recently in your life. So I don't even know the full story. So basically, you just took a picture one day of you tell the story. It's yours, not mine.
Well, yeah, I took a picture of the masterpiece that we created together, of your wall, the mural, and somebody from Amazon saw it. And so Amazon, the new building, the headquarters, I don't know if it's headquarters, but it's a huge building in Grand Rapids. They reached out to me, and I really thought that they had the wrong person. I was like, do you have the right person? And I don't know how they got my email. Like, all these different things were going through my head. Like, this is it. Like, I knew that this painting was going to change my life 100%. But then that moment that I got an email from Amazon the like visual arts director. I was like, no way, so that was a moment recently that happened.
You just said, I knew this painting was going to change my life.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, just from what we did together, just how it turned out, how I thought it was going to turn out, how it actually turned out, showing, what I am capable of doing, even though I knew I was capable of doing what you wanted. But then I think it kind of exceeded some expectation for you and I. And the layers that we kept putting on it made me realize, oh my goodness, like how much further, I could probably come back like 10 more times and, we could still have things added onto it. But changed my life because this was probably the biggest project I've ever done. Took a chance on a complete stranger 2 hours away, and I'm here. And that is so cool. That is something I never thought would happen. So, yes, changed my life.
So one of the things that you said to me over and over and over during the process is, James, it's layers. Like, I have to go in layers. And like you were like, it's like getting your hair done. Like, it's going to look horrible until it looks wonderful. And it's funny that as you talk about the layers on the wall, we went through layers of progression on this painting.
Yeah.
Because every time we hit another level, we went, wait a second, is it possible to do this?
Right.
What about that? And then,
Right.
so it's like the same way that you paint in layers, we created this masterpiece in layers. And now that is the same detail. If you go back to that young girl that was being told, you need to get off the detail.
Right.
You staying true to what you believed in and how you believed that you should paint kept you on the path for an Amazon director to see that and go, we're going to hire that woman.
Yeah.
And now you got to go to their warehouse and bid a job.
Yep.
Let's talk about that, because you said that they came back. Again, tell the story on the podcast because I know it.
Okay. So I met with Mindy at the Amazon building, and she was super excited about me doing a mural on the outside of the building. And I had, showed her my portfolio, and she got really excited. And she was like, well, how about we do more on the inside, and she wanted to do like 3 or 4 different murals on the inside. So we went and, kind of walked around, and she was like, okay, I need you to go home and I need you to give us a quote on how much this is going to cost. And so I thought about it, and I was so nervous because I want the job, And so, I emailed her what I thought was true to my heart and fair. And she came back and said, yeah, no. And I was like, oh no. And, I was reading the email, and she was like, you did not quote us high enough, so I had to come up with another quote, and that's where I'm at right now. But so
that's amazing. I love the fact that you said, like, she said, yeah, no, because I promise every guest that's listening to this, because people naturally think of failures, is thinking like, oh, she came back and denied you and said, we're not paying that. Yeah. She came back and said, we are not paying you that little. Yeah. We are paying you more than that because you are worth more than that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
as much as I was being true to myself, she was being true to herself and what she thought was right. And I was doing what I thought was right. So it was a funny dynamic for a bit, because she was like, girl, you're crazy.
That's incredible. Now, do you know when you start painting there, or have you already started?
I finished last week.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That's outstanding.
Yeah.
So now that you're really starting to get the wheels going, because I don't know if you realize now, you can say I've done paintings for Amazon in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
You're building your credentials, and you've probably are on a tipping point where you're going to have so much opportunity to paint that you're going to be able to be very selective about, like, oh no, like I don't know if I can fit this. I want to tackle that. Because I'm sure in art, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you just want to paint anything and everything. But I'm sure when you can find a project that inspires you a little bit, or that has a certain type of meaning, or allows you to express your talent to a higher degree, that's probably exciting.
Oh, very exciting. And I think that's probably why I love doing the one for you. And I think that's why it's changed things, is because I was very passionate about detail, and you were all about the detail. And that's something that's always been, in the back of my head in college, was like, that's why you're here now. But like, it was always like, oh, well, what if I do too much, always too much, Jen. And then you do, and it leads to, I think on the way here, I had like 3 people message me to do projects for them on the way here. So yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, I have a lot of really powerful connections, a lot of like big people out there. If you want to be blown away by a piece of art in your home, in your business, in your in anywhere in your community, this is the woman to reach out to. Like reach out to me and I'll send you some high definition videos of this painting up close. You will be speechless. I at one point I sat in my room for an hour just looking at the wall because I was like, it's hard to believe that this was brought to life by you stroking some color,
Yep.
you know what I mean, in layers.
You saw the progress too, and you're like, ooh. Trust.
It was truly remarkable. And looking back, like, I had such a blind confidence in you because, like, I didn't look at your artwork. I didn't look at anything like that. You know what it is? I felt your energy. And I'm really, really good. One thing that's propelled me in life is I'm very good at finding the right energy in people or the right environments to be in or like who to build and who to bring on board. And when I identify that energy, because what it is it's passion. It's that spark for life. When I identify that in someone, I'm like, that's one of my people right there. You know what I mean? So once I knew you had that, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't even matter. Like she's going to give every bit to make sure this thing is spectacular.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your goals because we're capturing this moment in time where you're in a transition period.
Yeah,
you're starting to blow up. You're getting recognition. You're starting to have tons of offers, for work. What do your goals look like? Like where does this lead to you just, being one of the most sought after painters in the country that people are trying to fly in to do their custom pieces?
Not, right?
Does this lead to you being an instructor yourself? Like you get hired at a college because of how elite your detail is and your type of like what are your goals?
I don't think that that could ever be a goal for me. I don't articulate things very well. I can do detail, but like getting up and trying to teach somebody how to, because I can just feel it, like I don't necessarily know how to articulate it sometimes. It's kind of just like a feeling that I have. So hopefully I'll never be an instructor. I mean, great if you are. But
at the end of the day, sometimes the best instructors in the world are called to do it. They don't even want to. But it's like if you have a certain talent, you almost have to.
Yeah. And maybe through, time, I'll gain confidence in that area. Like you, I don't know. Was that one of your goals? To be an instructor or?
Honestly, I just started teaching because martial arts changed my life so much for the better, and it pulled me out of such a dark place that I was like, I want to do that for other people. And then in a weird way, becoming an instructor actually killed my being a competitor because like I fell in love with the process of building other people, of coaching other people. I started backburnering I didn't really care about my individual results nearly as much as like, what can I do on a grand scale for the community, for people, for that young struggling version of me that was 15 years old that just needed a good person in his life to be like, yo, things are going to be good. So I fell in love with that process. And the funny thing is I never really thought I would. I thought I was going to be a fierce competitor that was very, very talented and skilled and able to break down information. So I would show other people during the process.
Yeah.
I never knew I would fall in love with like being I'm going to be a coach my entire life.
Yes.
And it's what I love to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, and it brings me back to a moment where I think I was probably 17 or 18 and I was asked to give drawing lessons to a girl named June. And we would sit outside and draw for hours. And she had like a really cool wooded backyard. And, there were moments where she would just like everything would click for her. And I could sit back and be like, I did that. Like I helped that process. And now she's an artist out in California. And anytime she does not anytime, but in the past, she has done amazing art pieces and she'll tag me and she'll say, it's because of you. And to me, that gives me the chills, but it is so cool to have that impact, though tiny, but she moved out to California and is an amazing artist. And I played a little part in that, and she'll have that memory for her whole life. So
I understand that feeling to the fullest. Even if the person had never said thank you, witnessing someone change their life and being a part of that journey and then living passionately and doing what they love. And like, because their influence now has ripples on the world. Like your influence had ripples and now theirs does.
Yeah.
And then like how many people are influenced because of two human beings or multiple human beings sharing in energy, sharing in passion, sharing in, you know, transformation. And like life needs more of that. If we had more people just trying to bring out the best in each other versus being like, this sucks, that sucks.
Yeah.
Life is capable of being so much more beautiful.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
art is a huge part of that. Like you see this building, there's art everywhere.
It's amazing.
The entire building is art. Like even like this studio, I was like, I gotta have this wall. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I don't like I would hate if this was just a gray wall and I put down a basic floor and I had a standard desk and to me it's like, why are you not trying to express like creativity or beauty or custom, you know what I mean? I don't know why. And again, it's a feeling. I get a certain feeling from this than I would not get if it was just standard. If this was an office, if we had white walls in an office space and I was like, welcome to my podcast.
I'm a really cool person.
It's like, you know, it's like being a drone. Like we're not drones. We're not AI. We're human beings, and human beings are supposed to express things. We're supposed to make things exhilarating and beautiful. You know what I mean? So, let's. I guess to wrap up the podcast, just people that you've met on your journey that you think were really influential to you or that helped, or like famous artists that you would shout out. Let's say other artists were looking for people for inspiration, or family members that really did believe in you or support you. Just anything you'd like to shout out for, like, as you're blowing up, you know what I mean? Just kind of like remembering the steps along the way, and then just anything you'd like to capture on this moment in time, a message to Noah, anything like anything.
The most amazing child. You know, something that I've thought about through the years is like, the people who have been kind of like the naysayers in my life, like, you need to make more money, you know, you're not making any money doing this. And those people probably have been the most influential because of what they have said to me to motivate me to keep going. And I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's something that I really think about a lot. I think about that moment where I didn't listen to somebody's opinion or suggestion, and it led to this moment, or it led to that moment, or, you know, I'm here because I didn't listen to someone's negativity or naysaying. So, and Noah, oh my goodness, he thinks he has the coolest mom, you know, sometimes. But so that's really cool to see his eyes like light up when I show him a picture, or, you know, the picture I just did for you, the painting I did for you. He was like, Mom, you need to have a YouTube channel. Like, you need to do this for a living, you know? And he'll say, don't care about what other people have to say that's bad. Just listen to what, you know, I mean, really, he sees it through a kid's eyes too. Very simple, right? Just listen to your heart and go for it. And he's been very influential too. So, yeah. There's
actually so much beauty in the simplicity of what that child said, of just like, don't care about what other people say. Just listen to your heart. Because, like, we know those things almost intuitively, and we know them as a child. And somewhere along the way, we, like, detach from that. And you start to, like, care about what people think.
Right.
You know, but, like, that young child just looks at it and goes, Mom, if you love to paint. Yeah. And, like, if you would get rid of all the other voices in the world and all the other things in your head, if more people would just go to, like, if I love to paint, I should paint. You know, the simplicity of that is genius.
It's so simple.
And honestly, like, he's a little businessman. You should absolutely start a YouTube channel.
You think so?
And while you're painting, you should film little stages of it, and then you should talk about the creation that you brought to life, and you should show your paintings, and, like, absolutely, because then you're going to create more of a following, and then all of a sudden people are going to get to know you, and then when someone's that is so genius that I'm almost bothered by the fact that I did not think to tell you that. But, like, Noah's like, just create a YouTube channel, Mom. My girlfriend's son, Braden, watches Mr. Beast every single day. He's a YouTuber.
Yep.
So, like,
I'm very familiar.
The next generation is consuming content.
Yep.
So how many artists are out there coming up would love to watch someone bring a painting to life and talk about the experience and talk about detail and talk about how they approach the customer initially and said, like, well, what are you looking for? And, like, you could even, you know, you could do tutorial videos of, like, when I first spoke to clients initially, I used to get a lot of rejection. I found out that what I actually have to do is convey my passion to bring you know what I mean? Like, tutorial for artists to be successful. Like, those things would be huge, because most things in society tell you, like, you can't make it an art. It's too
Yep.
hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing videos like how to become an artist, how to sell yourself to customers, how to do, you know what I mean? How to take someone's vision, not impose your style on it, but bring it to life with and accent it with your style.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are genius things.
Right?
Noah is
Yeah.
on to something.
Yeah, he's incredible. And I go to him for advice too about it. Like he'll show me pictures or videos of a YouTuber who's an artist and he'll be like, just do that, you know, and he'll just make it very simple for me. And he's like, Mom, I'll set it up for you, you know, like I'll help you. And I'm like, you're 10.
Yeah, he's probably as good. And you know what? Not probably. He is better on a computer than her, hands down. I would bet my life on that. One time I left the house and I said, Jen, the pictures for you, if you need to look at anything, they're on my desktop. Here's the password. Jen couldn't figure out how to turn the computer on.
Wait, hold on. What was the password though? And what did I forget?
Yeah, so the password on my computer was I forget it. And she forgot it.
I forgot the password.
So
I was like, what was the password again?
And I was like, Jen, what did you do? She's like, I forgot it. I'm like, oh, so close. Like you were right there. But one thing that you said that I think is really, really important to remember is when you like, hey, you're not, you know, making money with this. You're not doing this. You should go get a job. You should do this. You need to reframe those two. I'm not making money with this yet.
Right.
I haven't changed my life through this yet.
Right.
I'm not like keeping that doorway of possibility open. And because if you would have got off the path and been like, you know what, I'm not getting the amount that I need, etc.
Right.
You would have given up right before you made it.
Well, it's funny because so 2 days ago, someone had seen what I, you know, did for you, and he reached out to me and he said, hey, can you make this this going away board for my friend who's moving to Utah? And I said, absolutely. And I was like, what do you want? And he was like, just words, you know, just whatever. And so I said, okay. And I was like, honestly, it's going to take me like 10 minutes to do. Because he asked me how much it was going to cost. And I was like, honestly, just get me the canvas and have it shipped to my apartment and I'll do it for free and just consider this you know, there you go. And so he came back a couple minutes later and was like, you know what? I just saw what you did. And since you're doing this for me, can you do a mural in my basement? And because he was finishing up his basement, him and his wife. And so, you know, that act of kindness, not caring about money, not caring about, oh, well, it's going to take me 10 minutes of my day. And that happens more times than not. And so that was really cool to sit back and be like, wow, like my heart was in it to do good and put good into the world and say, you know what, it's not about the money. You know, your friend's moving away. I don't know who you are, but sorry. And then that, you know, came back full circle, and that's really cool. And like, there was one day I remember where a woman came into my work crying, and she had like bouquets of flowers because her horse was like 20 years old and it had just died, and it was her life, you know, her horse was her life. And so I did a quick little search because she was an employee at my work, and I did a search of her horse, and I took a couple hours while I was at my desk and painted her a portrait of her horse. And I went to her office and I gave it to her, and she was in shock at first, and she was like, what did you just do? And she started crying. I mean, she almost fell to the ground crying. And but it's not about the money. I mean, it has to at some point, like obviously, but like that moment that I took to kind of like help her along her path and her journey, you know, she couldn't believe it, and she held me in her arms crying. I don't even know this woman, you know, and I haven't spoken to her since. And it was just a moment where she was able to kind of like, I don't know, be vulnerable and be like, oh my goodness, what just happened, you know? So,
well, and you've taken someone's grieving, and you've immortalized their nostalgia. Like that's their animal. It's like a child to her, I'm
absolutely.
sure, you know, and like you've immortalized it now forever. The same way that you brought my characters to life on the wall. You're like, you've created that lasting feeling of she can look at that painting and remember how influential that animal was to her.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's amazing. And I can't tell you how many times I had business consultants or like friends that are super successful that would all the time when I was building this gym would tell me like, man, you do all these things for free. You shouldn't be doing this. Like, cause I would give away members. I can't even tell you over the years, the probably $100,000 that where I've like, this person can't afford membership. I just got to let them train, or like this court kid can't pay. The amount of things that I did just because in my heart, I was like, it's just the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
To get to where I am now is like, that's invaluable because
Right.
people remember that.
Right.
Like, the old quote, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
That is so accurate. You know what I mean? And as this business has scaled and this gym has gotten so big, I've had to like put someone else in charge. Like Stacy runs it and she has to run it as a business now because like otherwise before in the day I probably charged 50% of people memberships.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I was just
Right.
like, oh, you don't worry, you can just train.
Yeah.
And as you scale, like you said, if you are good at something, you deserve to get paid for it. And I had to almost reshape my brain that like my friends would go to Walmart and buy milk and all these things, or like go pay for this oil change here to like, if they're supporting me and I'm doing a really good service and I'm trying my best, why wouldn't they gladly want to help me? Because if they were running a business, I would gladly go. Like my buddy just opened Buff City Soap in downtown Brighton. I make sure I go there. I buy all the soap.
Yeah.
So I had to reshape because in your brain at a certain point, especially if you don't feel worthy, like fully worthy,
Right.
then it's almost like, well, no, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it.
Right.
Versus when you restructure that to like, no, I have a gift that I can give to other people and I deserve to get paid for that energy in the world. You know what I mean? Like that was an important process that I went through, and you're probably going to have to go through it more and more as you progress.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to have everybody going, hey, will you just do this? And you're going to be like, this part of your brain is always going to want is going to want to say
because
yes.
my heart is there for sure. Yeah.
I have the same struggle. Like I had to step away from all membership things, and I'm just like, no, I have to give my best to people here, and I have to know that these things are handled here because I'm always the person that just wants to try to help people.
Yeah.
Because I remember being that struggling
and
kid.
I think that's probably where it comes from.
It 100% does. It ties back into I remember struggling, and I don't want to see struggle in others. You know what I mean? But then again, I shouldn't be taking on more struggle for myself.
Right.
It's a weird balance.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So, Jen, this has been amazing. We have captured almost an hour straight dialogue. No problem at all.
Oh, man.
Full podcast. And now I can finally release this vlog, show this masterpiece.
So excited? How excited are you?
I can't even tell you how many nights I was like, just put one picture up of it. Just put it up for 10 minutes and then take it down. Get people excited. Like I've been so excited because like to me, it's such an amazing creation, but I've been holding it back because I wanted to capture this first so that when I drop the vlog showing the painting, I wanted this link attached to it so people could see who the artist is. They could hear your story. They could, just embrace really the beauty that was created here. So I guess the last thing that we'll do to wrap this podcast up is if somebody sees your work, listens to this podcast, looks at the masterpiece on the wall, and they want to reach out to you, they want to commission you to do work.
Yeah.
What is the best way to reach you? Just anything that you would tell those people, just a pitch for yourself, anything like that, and we'll wrap this.
Pitch for myself. Oh man, I am easily reached on Facebook, Jen Erin, Facebook, and can give people my phone number. Yeah. My number is 616-745-9005. You can text or call me. I'm really good at talking on the phone, so be careful, especially if I've had coffee. But yeah, so.
And again, if you can't find her on Facebook, or you should have got the number. Just reach out to me, and I'll put you in contact with her. If you live in the area, come over to my house, see this painting, and you're gonna go, "Oh my God!" I don't believe there's a project that you can't tackle.
Well, how many days did you after I would leave? How many times did I come over? I don't even know, but it was quite a few. But you would message me and just be like, "I just can't." You can't put into words like what is happening right now, and that is why I do what I do too, because to go from nothing to something and have you be able to see the process, which that was probably unique for you to do too, to be able to see this thing come to life, and it was unique for me too. And I think it's crazy too, it takes just a single stroke on the wall to get started. You know what I mean? It just takes that first step to get started. And I think that's what's really cool about this, because this was definitely probably one of the biggest projects I've taken on. But it's you can't worry about it. You can't stress about it. You just have to go for it, right? And
to me, it was amazing to see you start with, you put a little blue and you put a little red or orange up on the side.
Again.
And then right as you started painting out, I remember thinking to myself for a quick moment, I wonder how this is going to turn out. And then I stopped thinking about it, and I just watched this thing evolve into life. And it was just because I was working out of that office while you were painting. So
you had to look at it every day.
On a daily basis, I was like, oh my God, it just keeps getting more and more vivid and intricate. And then by the end, like the last couple days, I was just, there wasn't even words. I was just like, where does this get to?
Right.
100%.
Right. Absolutely.
So Jen, truly a pleasure sitting and talking to you today when you're worldwide, super famous, traveling all around, doing art. It'd be really cool to show people how, hey, I see that painting. Look who signed that.
Yeah.
That girl that's painting for
yeah.
Amazon, that's painting all over. Jen, Erin. Yep, that's the one that did this painting. So, truly a pleasure having you today. And,
Thank you.
We'll wrap this up.
Okay.